Welcome to the Rochester, New Hampshire History Podcast, a monthly show that will shine a light on a piece of history that has been all but forgotten.
In 1865, John Wilkes Booth became one of the most infamous villains in American history when he fired a 1-ounce pistol ball into Abraham Lincoln. Did you know there was a New Hampshire connection to John Wilkes Booth and the assassination of President Lincoln? It involves a powerful United States senator, his beautiful daughter, and a political cover-up. Our story starts in Rochester, but John Parker Hale was born in 1806. He grew up in Rochester and graduated Bowdoin College in 1827. He returned to his hometown to study the law and passed the bar exam to become a lawyer. In 1830, he set up a legal practice in Dover, New Hampshire, and became a successful lawyer. He was not content to be a lawyer, though, and his interest turned to politics. John was elected to the New Hampshire House of Representatives, then elected to the United States House of Representatives. By 1846, Hale was a United States Senator. He was fiercely opposed to slavery and became one of the most famous abolitionists in the country. John ran for president in 1852, but only earned around 5% of the vote. Franklin Pierce, who was also from New Hampshire, won the presidency that year. Hale never ran for president again and was content representing New Hampshire in the Senate.
Our story's next character is John Hale's daughter. Her name was Lucy, and she was born in 1841. During the Civil War, she lived in Washington with her family. Lucy was pretty, single, and a flirt. She was popular with the rich and powerful, attending all the high society parties, and was the belle of Washington society. It was not all fun and games for Lucy, though. She visited wounded soldiers in the hospital, and during lulls in the fighting, visited soldiers at the front lines. Her list of suitors included Oliver Wendell Holmes, who would become a Supreme Court Justice, John Hay, who would become Secretary of State, and even Robert Lincoln, who was the president's oldest son. However, to the consternation of her father, her one true love was the handsome actor named John Wilkes Booth. The two made an unlikely couple, as her father was a famous abolitionist and Booth was a Confederate sympathizer and in favor of slavery. John Wilkes Booth was also one of the most famous actors in the United States and was known as the handsomest man in America.
In 1861, the Hales were living in the National Hotel in Washington, D.C., and this was the same hotel that Booth lived in. In 1862, Lucy received a love letter from John Wilkes Booth, and thus started their romance. They started seeing each other in secret, but by 1865 they cast secrecy aside and were seen in public many times. Also in that year, they were secretly engaged to be married.
Lucy's father was worried that the relationship with Booth was serious. He preferred his daughter married Lincoln's son and not an actor. With his Senate term ending, John Hale secured an appointment to be ambassador to Spain. He wanted to separate his daughter from Booth, and bringing her to Europe would do that. By April of 1865, Booth was in a foul mood, as it was evident to him that the South would lose the war. At the start of the war, Booth promised his mother he would not fight and stay out of harm's way. He used his promise as the reason for not enlisting in the Confederate Army. Instead, he continued his acting career during the war years. Some believe his inaction during the war festered within him, and he felt guilty about not serving in the Southern military. Also, he had a deep hatred for Lincoln, whom he blamed for starting the war. To John Wilkes Booth, the president was a tyrant that needed to be killed.
By April 14th, Booth was ready to act. That night, he ate supper with Lucy and her mother. Around 6:30, he said goodbye to Lucy, and a few hours later, assassinated Lincoln, becoming the greatest villain in American history. After the assassination, Booth evaded capture until April 26, when federal troops shot him. He died looking at a ring on his finger, a ring given to him by Lucy. When his body was searched, Lucy's picture was found in Booth's pocket. Later, in secrecy, in the dead of night, Lucy boarded a Navy ship and visited the body of John Wilkes Booth to say goodbye before it was buried.
Her father acted fast to avoid scandal and had several articles published in newspapers denying any relationship between Lucy and Booth. What is interesting is that federal investigators questioned or detained anyone who had any connection to Booth. Even though Lucy and her mother were with him hours before the killing, they were never questioned. John Hale was a powerful politician, and he used all his influence to keep Lucy out of the news. Hale quickly took his daughter to Spain and away from the investigation.
Lucy spent the next 5 years in Europe with her father. John Hale died in 1873, and Lucy married William Chandler the next year. She lived the life of a famous politician's wife, as William Chandler was elected to the United States Senate. Publicly, she never mentioned John Wilkes Booth's name. Before she died in 1915, she helped secure funds to build a statue of her father, which stands on the lawn of the state capitol in Concord, New Hampshire.
This ends the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, please email bobgriffinpodcast@gmail.com and come back next month for another episode of Rochester, New Hampshire History.